President of the Legislative Council.
Mr.
Alan Leung, President. Mr. Ray Chan, I call for a quorum, please. The Honorable Alan Leong. Mr. Deputy, I speak in support of Mr. Wong Yok Man's motion to adjourn the committee's proceedings in accordance with RoP 40(4). One of the reasons is to allow Mr. Wong Kwok Heng to clarify what situation we are in and who is the kidnapper and who is the hostage and who is to pay the ransom money. I will clarify this for him. And another more salient point is, I just don't understand why we are spending more time on this committee stage. What meaning is there? If the entire committee stage is adjourned, then at least we can achieve the following purposes. Number one, the CS4A can have time to reflect upon this, and that is, she is asking legislators to act in a rational manner. Such behavior on her part, is it going to help the passing of the bill? Maybe Mr. Wong Kwok Heng and other loyalists, well, if you don't speak up, I would think that Mr. Wong Kwok Heng is your spokesman, because you all have a chance to speak. But if you don't, if you choose not to speak up, then Mr. Wong Kwok Heng will be seen as your spokesman. Then I would say you have been trapped by Mrs. Carrie Lam. She still feels that the Council can rationally deal with our business. Mr. Deputy, I'd like to ask this question. If we are rational, then why don't we tackle what Professor Pt2 said, and that is the civil criminal injunction? If the Council is rational, how can we pretend to be blind and deaf to what netizens are doing who are worried about their freedom of creation? If the Council is rational, how come we don't deal with the intermediary platforms who, in the eyes of copyright owners, should be charged? In fact, copyright owners do not target non-commercial activities, which, of course, strictly speaking, may be an infringement. So how can you say the Council is rational? If the Council is rational, if CE and the CS4A are rational, cannot they think? In March, we have to deal with the vote on account motion. If we can't do it in mid-March, then civil servants cannot be paid on the 1st of April. That's what they say. So they should be more pragmatic about the timetable. I have mentioned these few angles to demonstrate that this Council and our administration are not rational. When Carrie Lam and C.Y. Leung damage the division of powers and they pressurize this Council, asking us to be the home servants of C.Y. Leung, how come we do not protest? How come we will dance to the music of C.Y. Leung? This is what the pro-establishment camp is doing. They dance to the music played by C.Y. Leung.
Mr. Deputy, now that's the problem facing us. Today, if we can adjourn, then at least there's a chance for our fellow members to consider very clearly whether we should adopt the attitude and follow the attitude of Carrie Lam, who was following CY Leung's attitude, and just assume that this council can pretend to be rational. Now, giving space to everybody to reflect on this is good. Now, if we can adjourn, then during the adjournment, at least we can still discuss the issues I raised earlier. With regard to the bill, between the rights of the copyright owners and also the rights to secondary creation, and there can be a balance. At present, there is no balance. It's just lopsided in favor of the copyright owners. If we can have some space after reflection, I hope that Mr. Greg So, the Secretary, can do something and then try to pull the sides together so as to find a better balance. Now, Carrie Lam doesn't understand this bill. There is no point to ask her to do so, but it will give an opportunity for Mr. Greg So to explain this to the CSOA. She is receiving more than $300,000 per month. She has the official residence. She has a chauffeur. She has a chef. She has a gardener, all provided by public funds. Now she says that those who receive $93,000 have to attend meetings. They have to pretend to be rational. What exactly is she saying? She wants the bill to be put to the vote, and through the system they can still get the bill passed with violence, with systemic violence. To put it frankly, the core of her speech is exactly this. If you believe that pretending to be rational, and if you can hypnotize yourself that you can discuss the matter rationally, well, I think that's really unrealistic. Those who are watching our debate fully understand this. When the system has inherent injustice, then systemic violence can enable will enable the administration to go to its extremes and get what it wants. Well, we don't, even if we treat it as a job, we still have the responsibility to regard the core value of Hong Kong. As councillors, we have the duty to make sure that the road for recreation, the road for resisting CY Leung and Carrie Lam. She is looking more and more like CY Leung. This is the road to resist the arrogance and domineering attitude of CY Leung and Carrie Lam. They are misguiding the people of Hong Kong. They are putting political struggles in the forefront. We need to resist such systemic violence. If you condone this, there will be dire consequences. I always say this. Any mass movement, including revolutions, the French Revolution, ask the French. Before the revolution, before Louis XIV, said the speaker, was put before the put to the guillotine, did people want violence? Did people want the revolution? Now, C.Y. Leung takes the lead, and then followed by Carrie Lam, and then all the pro-establishment follow. And we will come to a critical point when systemic violence oppressed people so much that the victims have no opportunity to revert the balance. If their voices are not heard, then there will be serious consequences. Now, the adjournment motion, according to 44, can salvage Hong Kong from this jeopardy. Therefore, Mr. Deputy, I support the adjournment. Now, when I rose to speak, I said that the adjournment would give the Honorable Wong Kwok Hing to think about who is the kidnapper. And I have this view, and I would like to share this with the Honorable Mr. Wong Kwok Hing. The administration has the power to decide the priority of the bills to be put before this council. The administration deliberately does not raise issues related to livelihood. They just raise the bill, introduce a bill on copyright. Are they not the kidnappers? They look like kidnappers. Who are the hostages? The people of Hong Kong are the hostages. Those bills, 18 or maybe 21 bills who will be benefited from these bills are hostages. Who is under duress? The pan-democrats. That is as clear as crystal. I hope that the honorable member will think again. Is there a misjudgment on his part? Or are they trusting C.Y. Leung too much? They are trusting Carrie Lam too much that they have been misled. Mr. Deputy, I find it rather surprising. Why the pro-democrats, why the pro-establishment do not put pressure on the executive? They should have told the executive that the bill should be set aside. Now, I heard C.Y. Leung that that could not be done if the administration face any difficulty, it dodges, then it would get out of hand. Well, in fact, things have already got out of hand. Things are not under control. Why can't they deal with the 18 less controversial bills? The people of Hong Kong, having seen that you have reformed, people of Hong Kong may give you the credit. They will give you a better treatment. I really don't know, but it's meaningless because C.Y. Leung will not do that. According to procedure, according to RoP 40(4), we should first adjourn the committee stage, and then we can provide space to do what I have said earlier. If such matters can be dealt with satisfactorily, then not only for this bill, but also for the whole of Hong Kong, everybody will be benefited. And I, therefore, urge the honorable members who belong to the pro-establishment not to dance in the tune of C.Y. Leung and Carrie Lam. Thank you. Mr. Leung Yu-chung. Mr. Deputy, I speak in support of Mr. Wong Yoke-man's motion, which is to adjourn the committee stage under RoP 44. After Mr. Wong Yoke-man has spoken, then the President asked the Secretary to speak, but he only made 2 points. He opposed the motion, the adjournment motion. And then the second point was that would paralyze the working of the Council. I don't know whether the Secretary has heard Mr. Wong Yoke-man's speech. Mr. Wong Yoke-man has made several points. There are many bills, one of which is that many bills are waiting after this bill. Everybody knows that. The Secretary says that the Council has been paralyzed, but he has not spoken the reasons for that. And I hope everybody will reflect on this. Why there is such an adjournment motion before us? If you look at this, if you look back, the Pan-Democrats don't want the current situation, don't want to get into such the current situation. In fact, the Pan-Democrats have worked very hard on making a number of proposals, hoping that the administration will accept the proposals, but the administration insists not to do so. Without any success, members are forced to move amendments. We move amendments, but we know the outcome because of the composition of this Council. Despite the fact that our amendments are meeting the needs of the community, the pro-establishment can still block all the amendments by vetoing all our amendments. Yet, we still hope that the administration will listen to the views of the community and also the views of the Pan-Democrats, and therefore we propose to commit the bill to a select committee. The details can therefore be discussed in the select committee, and further views can be expressed and can be heard and can be discussed. But we cannot get the proposal through this Council. So now what we can do is to move an adjournment. But we, of course, can foretell that the adjournment will be vetoed and the meeting will go on. We can see two things from this situation. The Pan-Democrats want the administration to do more and listen more widely. We also want to tell the Council that there are many problems with the bill, and we hope that everybody can look into this bill more closely. One should not just pass the bill for passing's sake, and one should not just close one's eyes and then get and support the administration. Many netizens call this bill Article 23 of the Internet.
Why did they use that term? Because history tells us that Article 23 is a kind of draconian law. So they dub it as the Internet's Article 23. That means that it's a piece of a draconian legislation and which will affect seriously to the netizens. So that's why they call it netizen Article 23 on the Internet. And regrettably, the administration still sticks to its stance and ignores all these issues.
we've been coming up with proposals like the Select Committee and adjournment on the proceedings, etc. This goes to show that the pan-democrats are fighting the government against the government. We are resisting the government's initiative to turn us into a rubber stamp. From media reports and from discussions with fellow members, we heard also that the pro-establishment members have reservations on the bill. But the question is, regrettably, since the government or C.Y. Leung has made the instruction, so they want us to be a rubber stamp to pass it blindly. So this is very regrettable. Pan-democrats cannot do that. We have a democratic element in this council. We don't want it to deteriorate into a rubber stamp. So we've done our utmost to come up with proposals to resist and struggle against the government's proposal. And then it also shows that the failures and the flaws of this existing system, how unfair and unjust it is. Mr. President, if you watch carefully the developments of events, you will see that not only the Copyright Alliance, but even the SARG saying this. What did they say? They said, can we pass this bill first and then we will do a review? And I remember that the Alliance say that there are many complicated issues involved. Let's discuss them when we are calmer and when there is a more peaceful atmosphere. I quote their sayings because I want to show that the copyright owners, the Copyright Alliance, and the SARG did admit and understand that there are many problems with the bill, and these have to be dealt with. But regrettably, they would try to force it through today. I recall the Secretary saying publicly and also in this chamber repeatedly that after the bill is passed, a review will be done immediately. At the second reading debate, I said, if there is no problem with the bill, you don't have to review it immediately. So, Secretary, well, when you have the chance to speak later, can you tell me, in your bills, in the bills you've submitted before, have you ever said that a review will be done after the bill is passed? I will not say for sure that there is none, but I am sure that there would not be the use of the word immediately. Of course, there will be reviews, especially in relation to employment ordinance and labor laws and so on. Mr. Matthew Cheung said all the time that, well, let's pass it first and then the review will be done 1 to 2 years later. That's true. That's quite commonly seen. But we seldom saw that the word immediately being used. So it means there are problems that you can identify now. So if this is the case, why don't you pause and stop now and see how it goes? And see whether amendments can be made. I think this is just a rational approach, but surprisingly, you're not doing that. You try to force it through now. People were saying there is a backlog of bills, and the livelihood bills and bills are related to people's lives and so on are being held back. So, Secretary, can you be more rational? Can you not be like C.Y. Leung, who is combative? Can you think calmly? Is there an urgency in dealing with this now? Mr. President, during the second reading debate, I've also said that the majority of the provisions of this bill are modeled or copied from the British legislation. I've criticized the government officials in the SARG are being lazy, and they were not willing to look into the local situations and then come up with a piece of legislation that meets with Hong Kong's society situation. They are just copying and copying. But the question is, we know in Britain, its law is lagging behind others. And I also heard that the British people think that their law is too outdated. And they are thinking of ways of catching up, thinking about amendments. From the information I have, well, let me cite a couple of examples. For using satire in secondary creation of copyright works. In many countries, especially European countries, for example, Belgium, France, Luxembourg, Malta, Poland, Netherlands, and Spain, that is allowed. Scandinavian countries, Austria, Germany, Portugal, they're also modeling after the US. It's only Ireland and UK, they are lagging behind. But what is most problematic and desirable is that the SRG is copying from the British regime and not others. So why is that the case? I think these warrants our further discussion, but that the SRG is not willing to do it. It insists on its stance. So a lot of netizens have expressed their worries. You are not willing to allay their worries, and you try to force the bill through. What's the benefit of doing that? And what's most ridiculous, Mr. President, is that the Hong Kong Copyright Alliance and the IFPI and so on said that the members are moving amendments, but they are moving them too late. They didn't have the chance to give their views, so they were not accepting our amendments. Yes, that's true, President. They are the group most affected by the bill. Their interests are at stake. They said that amendments are being moved too late and it's being unfair to them. They didn't have the chance to comment on them. Well, that may be true. We haven't formally consulted them. But the question is, even if they come too late, we haven't formally consulted them, are these good enough reasons for objecting to these amendments? As we all know and understand, even if members were not consulted, for issues where the government is forcing through them. Well, a simple example is the 3RS. Has the government consulted us? No, they just push it through. And so I think this is distorted reasoning. So even if we are too late in moving amendments, can they be more proactive and approach us for discussions? They've never done that. They just insist on their own thinking and tell the media that the members have not discussed those with us and they're not going to accept them. So that's it. What kind of attitude is that? Are they being seriously in considering the bill? No, definitely not. They're just defending their own interests, and they just have their eyes set on their own interests only, and they are ignoring what others are saying. They're not looking at the issue seriously and working for the benefit of the whole society. They're just working for their own interests. And what is most pathetic is that the officials of the SRG are colluding with them and are protecting their interest only and disregarding totally others' interests. And they said that we said that the creativity may be stifled and they're ignoring it. But at the same time, SRG is saying that they are encouraging creativity and creation. So they don't practice what they preach. And this is very shameful and pathetic. So adjournment can allow us further chance to discuss this bill. Dr. An Zhang. Mr. Deputy, I speak against the adjournment. For those in front of the TV, they can see clearly that the opposition members on this subject alone have been dragging this, they have been resting for over a month. And now we've come to this stage, we can discuss the details of the amendments, and they're now asking for an adjournment. And last week, they were also asking for an adjournment. I think Carrie Lam is right in pointing out that since the members are getting public, earning an income from public funds, they have the duty to attend meetings. Mr. Alan Leung said that put it more clearly, I just get $80,000, $90,000. I couldn't care less. Well, that shouldn't be the case. Every member is paid money out of the taxpayers' tax, and we get over $10 million for every term. So please be clear about this. Since we are the legislators, we have the duty to attend meetings. You might not agree with what is being discussed. You can give us your reasons. But you're using absence from meeting as an intimidation tactics. That's very shameful. Well, a couple of days earlier, I bumped into a member of the public. She is a woman. She was very agitated and she cried, and she said that please go on having meetings. I expect that the pan-democratic members will not attend meetings. They thought that well, as long as we change the seat to another person, that will not be any problem. No, that should not be the case. Well, for every term of government, they are asking for the incumbent CE to step down. For Carrie Lam, she's made a couple of remarks, and they were again asking her to step down. So what they were trying to do is to overturn the government and paralyze the electoral to achieve their purposes. Members of the public told me that well, Hong Kong has a difficult future. The economic outlook is bleak. So a lot of members of the public are very worried. And they said that what's most important is we have to maintain stability. So we count on the pro-establishment camp to stabilize the society. Go back and attend meetings. If you don't attend the meetings, well, if you attend the meetings, it would be very hard on you. But then, if we can't get the funding, a lot of projects will come to no fruition. Well, it will have a sort of domino effect. If one thing collapses, it will bring the collapse of many other things as well. So ultimately, it will be the grassroots and the members of the public who will suffer ultimately. So, Mr. Deputy, so why are we sitting in this chamber? I think, well, for the past couple of days, we already have a very hard time. From 9 a.m. this morning, we will be sitting here till 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Well, in a week, for several days, we will be in the same situation.
Therefore, if you really don't want to come here to have meetings, then don't come from now on, because as the name says, you are the opposition camp. What have you supported? Anything if it comes from government? So you are saying we oppose, so we don't come to meetings. You call this a council? We have looked at other parliaments in the whole wide world. You may not like the government. You can walk out en bloc, But if you say we don't like the government, so we don't come to meetings, this is a very base tactic. And you leave the other half of the members here to continue with the fight. Well, don't worry, we'll continue with the fight. Some members just now said, why don't you pressurize the administration? You should pressurize the administration and resist it. Mr. Deputy, ever since we have had the bill, indeed, we have heard different voices in the community. From the angle of the public, what I care most is the rights of kaifongs and residents, for example, singing in community halls. Can they still do it? Will it be that they cannot sing anymore in community halls? And many kaifongs, after singing, would also put a clip of that onto the internet. Can they still do it? I directly asked the HA Bureau, and I got an oral reply saying that in most community halls, the license fees have been paid. I have also asked the secretary, who said to me that if you share to relatives and friends, you still can put a clip of your singing onto the social media. But of course, it would be best that the venue you use would have paid license fees. Like you go to a hotel or restaurant, if the venue has not paid the license fees, then there might be a problem. But no matter what, this is going to be a dispute between copyright owners and the residents. And it is not criminal. It is only civil. Since that's what I have heard, since the public are protected, I would think that we can support the bill. Of course, many people have asked for UGC and fair use. To me, whether it is fair use or user-generated content, as the Secretary has said, in 1997 we enacted the Copyright Ordinance, and now there are 6 exceptions, including what you said: parody, satire, caricature, pastiche, commenting on current events, etc. There are all these exceptions in the bill. In the future, you may want UGC, fair use. The Secretary has agreed to review it. He has given the undertaking. He has done it. So don't be worried. You say, I don't trust you, I don't trust you. I think whatever the administration can do, it is willing to do it. This time around, we can see from the PA that we are going to develop IP. And copyright is an important composite of IP. If we have an up-to-date copyright law, it will be conducive to the development of IP. You know, if we can successfully develop IP, it will be an instrumental force for the development of our economy. Some innovators and creators would like to have broader boundaries, but we must remember the copyright is something that results from creation done by an individual who spends time and energy on it. Therefore, the copyright should be enjoyed by the creator for some time. And then if you want to use the work, then at least the copyright owner should be protected by being able to charge a license fee. Many young people who are netizens will become copyright owners one day. Many of them are talented, so they should stand in the shoes of copyright owners. Because when they become copyright owners, they should also be able to possess and own the works they create. Some copyright owners are very generous. They say, okay, use my works. I don't mind at all. And some people said we should set up a Creative Commons. Why not? In fact, we don't have to legislate for it. So you don't have to object to the legislation. Just set it up. If you have innovations and creative works, put them into the Creative Commons. The administration, the copyright owners, they would not mind your business, and you can share those works. Why not? Why don't you respect the copyright owners? Mr. Deputy, you and I operated factories, and we always have the design unit in a factory. The design unit may spend years on inventing a very small product, and our profit might be generated by that one small product, so we can sustain our workers. So, Mr. Deputy, I really hope that this time around we support the bill not because we think of our own benefits. Now, I don't know whether we have a copyright owner amongst us, but we are discharging this mission. We have this mission. I don't object to the administration, and I don't necessarily oppose the opposition. I just want to say something that is fair. We just want to do what I think should be done. So today I object to the adjournment motion. Thank you. Thank you, President. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Ray Chan. Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Wong Yok Man for moving the adjournment motion according to RoP 40(4). I certainly would support this motion for adjournment. As of today, how much time have we spent on the scrutiny of the bill? On the 9th of December last year, the LegCo started to scrutinize the Copyright Amendment Bill 2014. We experienced 3 aborted meetings. We also moved adjournment motions. We invoked RoP 55(1)(a) to move a constructive motion because we'd like to commit the bill to a select committee. And today, Mr. Wong Yok Man proposes an adjournment motion in the committee stage. It is not meaningful anymore to argue whether this is a filibuster. Mr. Wong Kwok Hing used his 15 minutes trying to criticize filibuster. In fact, the 26 members of the Pan-Democratic camp will not argue with you whether what we are doing is a filibuster. I would never deny that we are filibustering. Our platform is that we filibuster in order to resist evil laws. Some members of the public supported us, some didn't. But then we got more votes in 2012 than before. Sometimes a filibuster is constructive instead of being destructive. We believe this time around, Pan-Democrats are not resorting to destructive means to tackle this copyright bill. As I said in the second reading debate, I said very clearly that copyright is important and we share commonalities with copyright owners. I am a copyright owner because I have been a lyric writer, even if I did not get a lot of license fees. But what is the objective environment this time around? CS4A, Carrie Lam, said that she hoped before the vote on account motion, the copyright bill could be passed. Let us look at the calendar, and then we'll know whether you should support our motion. In March, we only have the 2nd of March and the 16th of March for meetings. And it should be on the 16th of March that we should deal with the vote on account motion. In other words, In the ideal situation, we should complete the copyright bill from the 2nd to the 4th of March. That is what reporters asked Carrie Lam. They asked whether that is the deadline, because the week starting the 9th is for NPC, CPPCC meetings in Beijing, and the convention is that we are not going to hold any council meetings, and there is still no talking about reviving meetings. But then we have to be mindful of reality. Can we complete the committee stage plus third reading of the bill by the 4th of March? Whether you like it or not, I'll tell you the objective reality, and that is sorry, no. In these 5 joint debates, if every pan-democrat speaks for 3 times, not including the pan-democrats, every hour we would lose 15 minutes. Why don't you have your alfresco break now? We haven't got that for this hour yet. So we have 75% of the time. Still, we need over 100 hours. And I haven't calculated this adjournment motion. And also, at third reading, we can still move another motion for adjournment. And in fact, every week we can move it again. Mr. Deputy, I haven't really studied it. I am almost at the end of the session. I didn't know about 55(1)(a), and I didn't know that 40(3) does not apply to the committee stage. I only knew it when Mr. Wong mentioned it. So this is the objective reality. Whether or not you hate the pan-democrats, whether or not you support the bill, this is the reality. And if tomorrow or today we can pass the adjournment motion, then what will happen? What are we trying to adjourn? We are adjourning the committee stage, which is about the copyright bill. And it is not the same as adjourning the council. If we adjourn the council, then we will go home and then we come back next Wednesday. But this is not going to happen today. If we adjourn the committee stage, then we'll go into another bill right away, and that is resumption of second reading debate for Bankruptcy Amendment Bill 2015. So we'll work on the bankruptcy bill, and after that we have motions on subsidiary legislation to be moved by members, and then we have members' motions and members' bills. I think you have forgotten about the members' motions. They are to be moved by Mr. Tommy Cheung and Mr. U.C. Wing. And many members have said that they will speak and move amendments. For U.C. Wing's one, there will be 9 amendments. And then there is another one I'd like to debate, and that is Ms. Claudia Mo's motion for adjourning the council according to RoP 16(4) to discuss the disappearances of booksellers from Causeway Bay Books. Now, if we adjourn this committee stage, then we can deal with the list of business that I read out. And I believe no members will filibuster to block the list of business that I mentioned. If we continue to delay, I'm afraid Li Po will come back before we can go to the motion or adjournment motion to be moved by Ms. Claudia Mo. This is the reality. So adjourning the committee is good objectively. I'm now promoting it to you, whether you're going to accept it or not. After the adjournment of the committee stage of the bill, what will happen? What will happen to the bill? According to RoP 40, what happens is for the administration to give 5 days notice to revive the bill at the next meeting. And the president can exercise his discretion to waive the 5-day notice period. If adjournment is successful, I hope Mr. So will not go back and then to make it possible for the bill to come back. But even so, well, if the president allows you to come back, then next Wednesday, we will revisit the bill.
That will be meaningless. If you want to solve the problem, I think this adjournment, to a certain extent, overlaps with our debate in respect of 55(1)(a). Now, that one was pointing towards a select committee, but this one has no direction. But it does have the chance of enabling the administration to find ways to deal with this bill. You look at the whole picture. You should consider the whole picture. And in front of us, there are more than 18 bills. If you say 18 bills, there are less. You say, in fact, there are more. And many such bills have been dealt by bills committees, and I'm a member. Say, for example, the Chinese Cemetery Amendment Bill, and also the PRS bill, Producer Responsibility Bill. We don't want to have those bills lapsed. They will have to be reintroduced. They will have to wait again in the queue. And I have yet to speak on the budget. Now, if we adjourn and if the Secretary does not bring this bill up again, then we can complete the resolution on provisional appropriation on the 16th of March. And then after that, we will have a break of 2 weeks because of the Easter holidays, and then we will enter into the budget debate. The pro-establishment should have noticed this situation. If we do not choose a way out, now you say, why don't you force or put pressure on the administration to accept the proposals or withdraw the bill? In fact, there are lots of rumors. It was said that some pro-establishment members are doing some sort of mediation and ask the administration to compromise, but somebody doesn't allow the officials to compromise. You should watch out because somebody may make use of you. Say, in Tsingtao Daily, they said that the pro-establishment tried to stop Greg So from making a deal. In fact, Tsingtao is the mouthpiece of C.Y. Leung. Now they say that the pro-establishment is high-spirited, but there was an incident which made the pro-establishment members disencouraged. Greg So, in order to get the bill passed under the mediation of the Liberal Party, accepted some of the amendments proposed by the pan-Democrats. But the mainstream pro-Democrats became aware of that and were angry, and they called a halt to this. They claimed that if the administration accepted the amendments, then the pro-establishment would turn against the administration. That is just like the report by Mr. Leung Sheng. He reported what he received through his mobile phone. Now, the administration wanted to compromise. The copyright owners were also willing. And then they tested the water. Then the pro-establishment pro-establishment members were angry. They didn't need. They don't even need a recess. They were so angry that they said that they would destroy everything. Now, say if they accept my proposal, fair use, then it seems that will benefit the pan-Democrats, and that will make the efforts. That will put the efforts of the pro-establishment down the drain. I don't really want to believe that. We really want to solve the problem. Even if you are at odds, you are enemies, if you can untie the knot, then you better do so. So the adjournment is to untie the knot. instead of putting ourselves at loggerhead with each other. The adjournment is not to give room to the secretary to reconsider their strategy, say they will take turns to take a break, and each turn will only allow 3 members. Now, somebody wants to give way, and even the copyright owners want to compromise, but the pro-establishment doesn't want the compromise. There will be a financial cliff. At the end of the day, if somebody drops into the financial cliff, then you should not blame the administration. The administration want to defuse the bomb, but the mainstream pro-establishment members, they don't name anybody, but who are the pro-establishment members, mainstream pro-establishment members? They want to give you a way to climb down. If copyright owners want to discuss, say, the Pan-Democrats may say we need all 3 to be endorsed. Not a single place have fair use plus UGC. But if, say, 1 out of 3 is acceptable to the copyright holders, can that be discussed? I've heard that the copyright holders insist on not receiving UGC. Okay, then can fair use be discussed? We did hear the possibility of a compromise, and I hope that if there is an adjournment, the pro-establishment will talk to the netizens. Now, the keyboard frontline met with the Liberal Party, and also, but the FTU refused to meet with the netizens. Probably they didn't understand the bill, and even 2 members of the FTU withdrew from the Bills Committee. The adjournment didn't need any, didn't require them to speak on the content of the bill. I hope that if it is adjourned, then they will keep contact with the netizens. I support Mr. Wong Young-man's amendment, this motion. Dr. Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. The motion by Mr. Wong Young-man is according to RoP 40(4). This is an adjournment of the committee stage, and I hope that members can actively give their views. Now you can see that since we have entered committee stage, from this morning until now, only Mr. Chen Kam-lam spoke because he was the chairman of the Bills Committee. He spoke according to the RoP, and when he spoke his own mind, he said that he was against the bill. And then afterwards, Mr. Ma Fong-kwok spoke, and after that, nobody from the pro-establishment speak on the bill. Ms. Chang Lai-wan just wanted to tell the public that all pro-establishment members were here and the Pan-Democrats were not here. The majority of the speakers who have spoken were Pan-Democrats. They were well prepared. They did their homework, and their speeches were solid. They were waiting in the line to speak on the content of the bill. Now, we have identified many controversial issues in the bill, and therefore we have been talking to the community on how the community groups to get exemptions, and also to make sure that the bill will not be Article 23 of cyberspace. Those pro-establishment members were laughing. Descartes said that cognito ergo sum. I think, therefore I exist. You just sit there, you have no soul. Does it mean that you are actively involving in the debate? RoP 41, they should not second-guess our motive. Please ask him to withdraw his unfounded criticism. Dr. Kenneth Chan, I was speaking about Descartes' word, cognito ergo sum. You are existing, that doesn't mean that you are thinking. I believe Professor Leung should have understood this simple principle. I hope Mr. Kenneth Chan does not dodge the issue. He alleged before this that we didn't use our brains. He was just guessing our motive, and I hope he will withdraw that. Mr. Chairman, I hope the pro-establishment. Do you want to withdraw that? No, not at all. I hope the pro-establishment will use their act to prove how they think, how they participate in this debate. Ms. Ann Chang. Just now, Mr. Dr. Kenneth Chan said that we are sitting here, so what? You have been sitting here since 9 a.m. You sit there and don't talk. I want to clarify. If we are to study the bill, if we are to speak, then we are just helping with the filibustering. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. The member has pointed out that you guessed the motive. This is not speculation. This is my observation. I hope he will refer to 41.5. A member shall not impute improper motives to another member. I demand Mr. Kenneth Chan to withdraw his motion. Not bringing one's brains is not an improper motive. It is their freedom. Dr. Kenneth Chan, please clarify whether you have this to guess the motives, whether you have such a motive. I say this is my observation. Please make a ruling whether. Otherwise, please let me to continue. I adjourn the council now. I will listen to the tape.